You know that feeling, right? Your first day at a new job. You're excited, sure, but you're also kind of nervous, trying to figure out where the coffee is, how the printer works, and, more importantly, how things actually get done around here. It's that feeling of being the new kid, trying to crack the code. Well, today we're going to unpack that whole experience. There's a name for it: organizational socialization. It's basically the story of how we go from being a total outsider to a true insider.
So let's talk about that journey from outsider to insider. It's not like a switch just flips on day one. It's a whole process, right? As we're about to see, it has these really distinct stages, and each one comes with its own set of challenges and, you guessed it, unwritten rules.
I mean, seriously, think about your own job for a second. Is it cool to leave right at 5? Who's the person you actually go to with a problem versus who you're supposed to go to? Is eating lunch at your desk just what everyone does? These are those unwritten rules, the invisible architecture of your workplace culture. And figuring them out, that's everything when it comes to fitting in.
Okay, so there's a formal academic term for this whole shebang: assimilation. And notice it's not just about the first week. It's this ongoing thing. It covers the entire process, from the moment you even think about applying for a job, all the way to the day you eventually leave. It's all about how you learn, how you adapt, and how you become part of the very fabric of the place.
But here's what's so fascinating. This is not a one-way street, not at all. On one hand, you have socialization. That's the company teaching you its ways, right? But on the other hand, you have individualization. That's you influencing the company. You bring your own unique skills, your personality, your ideas, and you start to change things, even in tiny ways. It's this constant dance between fitting in and making your own mark.
So, how does this journey actually play out? Well, researchers have broken it down into 3 main phases. First up is anticipatory socialization. This is all the stuff that happens before you even start. Then comes the encounter phase, which is basically when your expectations meet reality. And finally, there's metamorphosis. That's when you go from being the newbie to a fully integrated insider. Let's break each one down.
All right, let's start at the beginning. And here's the twist. The beginning is not your first day. Our ideas about what work even is get shaped way, way before we ever get a job offer. This first phase is what we call anticipatory socialization.
Think about it. From when we're little kids, we're being socialized to understand the whole concept of work. It starts with chores around the house, then homework from school, then maybe that first part-time job you had. Even just listening to your family talk about their jobs or seeing how work is shown in movies and on TV, all of this stuff builds our expectations about what having a quote-unquote real job is supposed to be like. And then things start to get a little more specific. You start looking into careers you might actually want. You research companies, you scroll through their websites, you read Glassdoor reviews, you go through the whole interview process. So by the time you actually accept a job, you've already built this whole mental picture of the company's culture and what you think your role is going to be.
And that brings us to phase 2, the encounter. This is the moment of truth. This is when all those expectations you built up come crashing into the reality of the day-to-day job.
You know, this quote from researcher Merrill Lewis just nails it. The encounter phase is all about making sense of everything. It can be surprising, even a little disorienting, as you try to figure out how things really get done versus how you imagined they would, or even what the official employee handbook says. So what you're trying to learn really falls into 2 big buckets. On one side, you've got the role-related info. The technical skills, the procedures, how do I use this software? That's kind of the easy stuff. The much trickier part is the cultural information, the real norms, the values, the stories that define the company's personality. Is it okay to joke around in meetings? That's the stuff that's almost never written down anywhere. This brings us to a key point. Newcomers are not just passive sponges waiting for information. Nope, you become an active detective. To learn the ropes, you might ask direct, overt questions. Or maybe you'll try something more indirect, like hinting around to avoid looking clueless. You might ask a friendly coworker that's using a third party, or you'll just do a lot of observing, just watching how people act in meetings. This whole toolkit is about one thing: reducing your uncertainty so you can figure things out fast. Okay, so you've survived the initial shock of the encounter, you've started to make sense of the place, and now the final phase begins: metamorphosis. This is where you make that big shift from feeling like the new person to feeling like you actually belong, like you're a real, contributing part of the team. And a huge part of this stage is realizing that your job description isn't set in stone. It's not just a list of tasks you were handed. Instead, your role becomes this living thing that's actively shaped and negotiated over time, especially in that relationship you build with your manager. This is where that idea of individualization really comes to life. A really great way to think about this is through something called leader-member exchange theory, or LMX. It breaks down into 3 steps. First, there's role-taking. Your manager gives you some tasks to kind of test you out, see what you're good at. Then comes the really important part, role-making. This is where you and your manager negotiate your role. Maybe you volunteer for new projects, or you find ways to use your unique strengths. If that all goes well, you get to role routinization, where your role is pretty much established and you and your boss are on the same page. Now, the outcome of this whole process is absolutely critical. Depending on how that negotiation goes, you can end up in one of 2 places, the in-group or the out-group. The in-group relationship is built on high trust and mutual respect. You get more support, more interesting work. The out-group relationship, though, is much more formal, very transactional. You just stick to the job description. And where you land, well, it can have a huge impact on your job satisfaction and honestly, your whole career path. Okay, so to bring this all full circle, we have to remember that assimilation, this whole process, doesn't last forever. The journey also includes the end, which is eventually leaving the organization. Leaving a job isn't just something that happens on your last day. It's a gradual process of disengaging. And it doesn't just affect the person who's leaving either. It sends ripples through the entire team. In fact, how a person's departure is communicated and managed says a ton about the organization's real culture. It's really the final chapter that completes the entire cycle. So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with this one thought. We've seen that fitting into a workplace is about 2 things: learning the rules, that's socialization, and having the power to shape your own role, that's individualization. So the real question to ask yourself is, in your own career, what are you doing right now? Are you focused on playing by the book, or are you looking for your chance to help rewrite it?